Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this recorded webinar training on rostering and pretests. My name is David Dahlberger, and I'm an implementation training specialist here at Freckle Education, as well as the instructional technology and student data specialist at an elementary school in Maryland. I'm very excited to dive into the ins and outs of student rostering as well as pretests within the Freckle program. Freckle is committed to equipping teachers with the tools and support they need to provide every student with a world-class education. The roster and pretests are a pivotal part of this process. When students are rostered correctly, they can access a customizable dashboard that is just right for their learning needs. In addition, the pretests help place students at a comfortable learning zone. This is commonly referred to as the zone of proximal development. Students engage with content that is appropriate to the amount of rigor they need to grow as a learner. Our training today will be broken up into 3 different sections. We will begin with getting started with the roster, then customizing the roster to meet student needs, as well as setting up students for success with the pretests. Getting started with the roster. We will talk about creating a class, adding students to the class, and getting students logged in. Let's transition over to the teacher dashboard to talk about getting started with the roster. As I log into my Freckle teacher dashboard, I click on the left where it says roster. I'm going to begin by adding a new class. I can name my class and select one or multiple grade levels. I can add my students individually or I can copy and paste them from a spreadsheet. For example, I hover over the names as well as the grade level for each student. I copy this and I go right here to paste, and voila, it's got my students copied right into my new roster that I'm setting up. One of the easiest ways to get your students logged into the program is by clicking on Class Options and printing login cards. These login cards will allow students to log in with their first and last name, as well as a class code that's going to be the same for every student. Let's now talk about customizing the roster to meet student needs. We will discuss sharing versus transferring students in classes, setting password protection, editing student details, as well as dashboard settings. Let's go back to our teacher dashboard. By clicking on class options, we can share or transfer an entire class with other teachers. For example, sharing another class with a teacher might be the case where you have a co-teacher that also is teaching some of those or all of those students. Of course, we can also share or transfer individual students. Transferring students is when you are moving a student to a teacher that maybe they're going to have next year. This way, students don't lose their data and they're able to keep track of everything they've done in the previous school year. It's also important to note that teachers can set a password that's individualized for each student. By clicking on class options, I can click where it says set password protection. This way, students would not only log in with their first and last name as well as their class code, but they would have a unique password that's just right for them. As you can see across the top, my class, Freckle Elementary, has access to 4 subjects. If I want to edit the subjects that the students have access to for this class, I can click on Edit Subjects. By clicking the toggle next to each student name, I can edit some student details. I can change the student's language from English to Spanish if the student might need some Spanish support. I can change grade levels. I can also make some changes to the student's dashboard. For example, students in grades 3 through 12 do not normally have access to number basics or number facts. They also don't normally have access to things like decodables or sight words. But that doesn't mean that you can't turn on these features for these older students. I can simply click on the features that I want to turn off or on for each individual student, and I can apply these to the student settings. I could also apply these to every student in this class if I wanted to. If we scroll back up, you can also see that when we have adaptive math selected, we can turn off or on certain adaptive math domains. One commonly asked question is about students earning coins and if teachers can update their students' coin balances. By clicking on class options, you can update your students. By clicking on the toggle next to each student name, you can individually update a student's coin balance. You can also reset student options here, and this would be related to the pretests that we are about to discuss. Let's dive into the pre-assessments. We're going to talk about students accessing pretests. We're also going to discuss the different types of pretests, as well as entering data to override pretests. I'm going to transition over to the student dashboard. Once again, I will log in with my class code, my first name, and my last name. Students have a certain amount of pretests that they can take to help them be successful with the program. I'm going to start as a first-time user in this account with math. It's going to prompt me to take a math pretest for each of these domains. Keep in mind that students in kindergarten do not have any pretests, and pretests do not save. So students will need to complete their pre-assessment in one sitting. Here I am in adaptive math, and I'm going to get started with the measurement and data pretest. The pretest is not going to tell me if I got the question right or wrong. It's simply going to advance me on to the next question, and it's going to be different for each domain. I will keep receiving questions until the program is aware of a great level just for me. Let's look at some of the ELA pretests. Here is the ELA reading levels pretest. This pretest is going to give me a reading level that's just right fit for me. As I read the text, I'll take a little time until I can click Done Reading. Once I'm able to click Done Reading, I will answer the questions on the right side. And these questions will help the program determine a reading level that's just right for me. The reading levels pretest also applies to the ELA skills practice that students have access to. Students receive a different pretest for the word study program, and students can access this after they've taken the reading levels pretest, or you as a teacher can assign the students the word study pretest. Let's go back to the teacher dashboard and talk about how you can enter data to override pretests. I'm back on my teacher dashboard, and I'm going to click on Math and Reports. The math level reports allows me to put data into the system to override pretests if I'd like to do so. It also allows me to see where students started and where they currently are working. But if I click on Edit next to the student name, I can override and start the student at any level that I'd like to. if I go to if I go to ELA, reports, and click on ELA levels, I can also override the pretests for reading level by clicking edit level and change the student's reading level. Here I can choose the ELA program that my school district might use, such as Fontes Sempanel or perhaps DRA. I can also override the word study pretest if I'd like to. Now, if your school integrates with STAR Math, in other words, if you are a customer of both STAR and Freckle Premium, then you can bypass the pretests and use your STAR scores instead. This concludes the training on rostering and pretests. Thank you so much for tuning in. Email us with any comments, questions, or suggestions at support@freckle.com.